Great. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get that recording going. That way we can make sure that we have this available in future. Now, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting by reviewing the purpose of the auditing module, what it's for and how it works. We will look at how to audit individual records in FirePro, and then we'll look at the audit list window, which deals with a big picture look at all the audit logs throughout the system. So when we look in FirePro, the auditing system is available for essentially all FirePro users. And what it does is it monitors any changes that are made on any record. It tracks the username that made the change. It tracks the data that was changed in the record, and it also tracks the time date stamp of the individual change. Access to the audit module is controlled under the user options password function. And it's important to remember that the user name that's attached to the person that's logged in is the information that the audit module uses to track changes. So what that means is that it's usually a good idea to make sure that each individual user has a FirePro login, as opposed to having, say, station-wide logins or more generic logins. There are times when generic logins are probably not going to be a big deal, but it is usually a good idea to make sure you have that separation there. So when we look in an individual user profile, in the section under modules, we have the ability to set specific permissions for each individual module and access. One of the permissions for each module is access to the audit tool. So turning on this permission for a user is going to give them access to the audit records that are attached to each individual file in FirePro, and it will also give them access in the audit list to do large-scale audit searching for records in that particular module. So, if a user does not have audit access, then generally speaking, they're not going to be able to see audit information. When we look at some of the sub records like property letters or property pre-plans, these all fall into the properties auditing tool. So they're all kind of part of the property auditing. There are some modules in FirePro where audit is not fully enabled. That would be things like potentially budgets. But for most modules, there is a full audit permission and function that's available. So if you want to add auditing to ability to any individual user, you can just go through and turn the audit permissions on for modules that they have access to. Now, once a user has audit permissions, they're going to see the audit tab appear on individual records in FirePro. So each individual record in the system maintains its own audit history, which tracks basically every time someone hits the save key. So whenever you hit save and make a bunch of changes, commit them to the database, the system will write those changes into an audit log record for you. So on the audit tab, you're going to basically be able to see every single time this record has been saved and which user saved those changes. If you want to, you can also search the individual audit tab of a record for changes made by individual users or changes made within a specific date range. The default is to just show all the audit changes that are possible there. With these audit records that are attached to the file, there's two different reports that you can pull from here that relate to the different changes. So one report, and if we highlight any of these individual audit items, we can also see some information about action type. I'm going to talk to you about action type when we look at the audit list window. But you can click on each one of these individual change logs to highlight it, and then you can use the printer button on the right-hand side to generate a couple of different change log reports, which are going to tell you about the nature of those changes. So the first report that we have in here is a detail report. What this does is it prints a detailed printed report, just like you would get if you printed a detail report from the record itself. But this detail report highlights all the changes that were made during this particular edit. So if I hit detail report, it's going to give me the same parameters that I might if I'm printing a standard report on here. But when I send this to the screen, I can see highlighted in red are the different fields that were changed on this particular edit. This individual report does not actually specifically tell us what those changes were before the change, but it is going to show us exactly what was changed on this particular edit. So we can see in this case we had, let's go back up there. We had changes to reference number, we had changes to various different time fields, and then there's other information further down that was changed on this edit. The other report that we have available in here is the list changes report. So this is going to be a slightly more detailed breakout of exactly what changes happened during this time period. So it's going to show us the tab where the change was made and the user that made the change, and then give you a breakdown of exactly what change was made. It's going to tell you what the starting value was and what the ending value was and the approximate timestamp when all this happened. So we're able to see a variety of pieces of information. One thing that we should be aware of here is that when we do things like record added, sometimes adding records will automatically generate a bunch of subsidiary information like timestamps and fields. We don't list those specifically on here, but in this case, we could see that there was a truck chart record added. And if I went in and printed a detail report, it would show me exactly what was added, which unit, and all the different records that were added as part of it. So it gives us a lot of ability to dig into a detailed breakdown of exactly what changes were done. We can do this for any one of these change stamps. So we can look at any point and say, okay, give me a change list and see exactly what happened at every point for each individual record. So these audit logs are created automatically as part of the process of you just using FirePro. And if you have the correct permissions, you can go in and do a pretty deep dive into all the changes that have been made on any individual file. This can be done on pretty much every record in the software that has had changes made on it. So we can see there's audit histories for inventory records, for example. So I can do a quick list changes and see exactly what changes were made at any point for any record. The other area where we might be doing auditing information is through the audit list window. The audit list window is going to let us look at auditing information at a much broader level. If I open the audit list window, it's going to give me a current list of various different types of records. So like most records in FirePro, the audit list window has a default search set where it's going to search for audit records changes from this month. It's going to look for all user changes, and it looks in the incidents module by default. But as we can see, we can look for auditing changes in any module that we want to that has full audit enabled. So this is going to let us toggle between different modules and search for auditing changes in those modules. And if we go back a little bit further, we're usually going to be able to see specific changes in each module. This tool also gives us the ability to look for changes made by individual users. So I could say, I want to see all the changes made by this person in this time period. We'll go a little further here and see if we can find some. Yeah, no, we'll pick somebody who is doing more stuff. Administrator is usually a good choice. Oops, I erred on the opposite side there, and now we're going to see a whole bunch of stuff. In the case of some modules that do have a record number, you can also search for changes made to an individual record. If you have, say, the incident reference number or the training file reference number, which gives you a bit more ability to look at a specific file, although the information that's displayed here will essentially be exactly the same information that you're going to see on the audit tab of those individual records, which means that you can, if you know the individual number, you can pop in there to the record directly. As we can see, the audit information does contain a lot of data. So in this case, we can see a huge amount of information. One of the main pieces of information that we're going to see here is this action type. And there's three main action types that we might bump into. So the most common one is update. Update is essentially an edit to a record. Anytime a record is edited, it will log an update action. If we look, let's see, this month and all users in incidents, we can also see that if we're creating a new record, it will generate what's called an insert action type. So that means someone has added a new file, created a new incident report in the system. There's also a delete. So that would be an item has been removed. Usually we're not able, obviously, to give you a lot of detail about the item after it's been removed. But you would say, for example, if there had been an incident report and that incident report had been worked on for a while, number of edits had been made on it, and then the incident report was deleted, we would still see in this overall log records of changes made to that deleted incident, but then it would show that that incident had been deleted at a certain point. So this does give you the ability to kind of look back at a specific record and see things that existed about it before it was deleted, if that was cleared. So that's the main purpose here. One of the other tools you can do in this audit list window is you can go directly to the record if you want to. So if I double clicked on this particular file, it will take me right into this file itself. If I go in and delete it now, I would then at this point see that I'm dealing with a delete. Well, that one's specifically going to be showing as an update on the main incident. But we're going to be able to see that individual records have been changed for various reasons and at various times. The incident module does cover a whole range of different areas. So if I'm looking in different modules, I'm going to be able to see information about all changes that have been made. And if I go into the module itself, it's going to give me an auditing history. This works essentially across all of FirePro and gives you a tool for tracking changes, modifications, deletions, and creations throughout the entire system. And as I said, not a particularly long one today, but covers an area of the program that I'm not sure tons of people are aware of as far as how it works. This is the point where I am happy to answer any questions. If you have some specific things about your FirePro and related to audit that you want to ask, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll call this one a short and sweet session today. Okay. If you do have questions, feel free to stay, but otherwise I'm going to stop recording and we'll go ahead and go from there.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Good to see you.
You too, bud. Long time no see. Yep.
Yeah, almost 12 whole hours.
Yeah. Thanks.